The bond of friendship. The city was alive, buzzing with ambition, noise, and the endless rush hour that never seemed to end. Skyscrapers pierced the sky, neon signs painted the night, and every street was its own tangle of stories. In this metropolis, where anonymity could swallow the loneliest soul, and opportunity waited around every frantic corner, Emily Sinclair found her anchor, her friends. Emily had always been the quiet, steady type, intelligent, genuine, and thoughtful to the core. It was these qualities that made her a magnet for the small group of women who would become her closest friends during their freshman year at Columbia University. Their friendship had formed swiftly, almost by accident, inside the gleaming halls of the campus library. Emily was the one patiently offering study notes, always the first to remember a birthday or a special event. There was Jessica Carter, everything Emily was not: bold, confident, and fiercely ambitious. Jessica could light up any room, and she knew it. Her drive had helped her land coveted internships and propelled her relentlessly up every ladder she chose to climb. She and Emily complemented each other perfectly. Where Jessica was storm, Emily was shelter. Then came Amanda Brown, whose wit was as sharp as her tongue. She was clever and resourceful, always with the right words at the right moment. Amanda had a way of finding loopholes, even in friendships, and she was quick to diffuse tension with a joke or a sly grin. If there was a party, Amanda was in on the planning and knew who was coming before the invitations went out. Last but not least, there was Lily Evans. Raised in a wealthy family, Lily wore her privilege lightly and was generous almost to a fault. She loved treating the group to weekend brunches or spontaneous shopping trips. But beneath her easy smile and Instagram-perfect life, Lily fought her own battles with family expectations and personal anxieties. Together, the four of them became inseparable. They survived the chaos of finals, the heartbreak of failed romances, and the uncertainty of looming adulthood. Late-night pizza in Emily's dorm, walking arm in arm along the High Line, and confiding secrets over endless cups of coffee at a hidden cafe in the village. These became rituals, the glue that held them close. After graduation, their friendship persisted, even as adulthood threatened to pull them apart. Jessica landed a dream job at a fast-growing tech startup. Amanda started her own social media consulting firm. Lily ventured into nonprofit work, and Emily found a research analyst position at a respected firm downtown. They each built busy, full lives, but their group chat was active at all hours, brimming with inside jokes, advice, and stories only they could understand. What bound them was deeper than shared history. They had proven their loyalty time and again, supporting Emily when her father was ill,
Amanda.
rallying around Jessica after a messy breakup, volunteering at Lily's charity events, and helping Amanda through the stress of launching her business. True, there had been squabbles along the way, misunderstandings over missed calls, jealousies sparked by successes, moments of drifting when work or other relationships took priority. Yet, every time they circled back, their bond seemed unshakable. Standing on the threshold of their late 20s, the four believed, or needed to believe, that nothing could tear them apart. Their friendship was their safe harbor, a promise that even in a city that never slowed down, they would always have each other. But beneath the surface, as Emily would soon discover, even the tightest bonds can hide cracks. cracks invisible until the light hits just right, love. In the first cracks, Emily never imagined that something as simple and beautiful as love could become the first wedge that threatened to splinter her close-knit circle. Yet, as her relationship with Ryan Hale blossomed, subtle and troubling changes began to ripple through the group. Ryan was effortlessly charming, a financial consultant with a dry sense of humor, an affinity for hiking upstate, and a soft spot for obscure indie bands. He had an easy rapport with everyone, but his affection for Emily was obvious from the start. Their relationship grew slowly, but surely, beginning with study sessions in quiet corners and evolving into late-night conversations that spilled into sunrise. Ryan, with his gentle understanding and genuine curiosity, made Emily feel truly seen in a city that often overlooked the quiet ones. At first, her friends seemed genuinely happy for her. Jessica teased Emily about finally breaking out of the library romance novels, while Amanda, ever the instigator, insisted on vetting Ryan at their favorite Lower East Side bar. Lily was the first to insist the group go on double dates, gushing about how cute Emily and Ryan were together. But as the months wore on, the group dynamic began to shift in ways Emily couldn't quite articulate. Jessica, once effortlessly friendly with Ryan, began making offhanded comments that straddled the line between teasing and belittling. She pointed out Emily's predictability and joked about Ryan's boring choice in music. It was all in good fun. At least, that's how Jessica insisted Emily take it. But the barbs started to sting. Amanda's wit, usually sharp but harmless, grew more pointed when Ryan was around. She would interrupt Emily mid-story, redirect conversations back to herself, and occasionally suggest that Ryan looked a little too comfortable with their group. Amanda's jealous streak was a side that Emily had never seen before, and she found herself questioning whether it was just her imagination. Lily remained the peacemaker, inviting everyone to rooftop brunches and shopping trips, and offering a shoulder whenever tension ran high. Yet even Lily's reassurances sometimes rang hollow. Her suggestion that maybe everyone just needs a little space left Emily wondering if she was becoming a burden. It wasn't just the friends' reactions that compounded Emily's discomfort. Ryan, noticing the subtle competitiveness, tried to smooth things over. He'd privately check in with Emily after group outings, reassuring her with a gentle squeeze of the hand or a whispered, "Don't worry, I know they care about you." Emily appreciated his attempts, but she began to dread the gatherings she'd once looked forward to all week. The fractures grew more pronounced with time. Missed calls, forgotten invitations, and stories about group get-togethers that Emily only heard about after the fact started piling up. Once, she discovered Amanda and Jessica had gone to a concert together, one Emily would never have missed, but no one had thought to invite her. The omission felt deliberate, like a quiet signal that the rules between them were changing. Despite these shifts, Emily continued to believe in the resilience of their friendship. Everyone gets jealous sometimes, she reasoned. Maybe she was just being too sensitive. Or perhaps her friends worried that Ryan was taking her away from them, as Amanda had once joked. Wanting to keep the peace, Emily made excuses for the girls and doubled her efforts to show up for every brunch, every impromptu gathering, every late-night phone call. But a sense of unease lingered, a whisper in the back of her mind she hesitated to acknowledge. When Jessica, after one too many glasses of wine, playfully asked Ryan if he'd ever dated someone a little more exciting, Emily laughed along with the group. Beneath her laughter, though, a tightness in her chest refused to go away. Some friendships, she thought, were tested not by storms, but by the slow, persistent drip of unspoken resentment. Resentments that collected in corners until the day someone slipped. Emily couldn't have known then that these tiny fissures, ignored and patched over, were already setting the stage for what was to come. Divergence and scheming. In the months that followed, Emily found herself caught in a whirlwind of demands at work. She had landed a coveted position as a junior analyst at a leading financial firm, an achievement she was quietly proud of. The office pulsed with energy and competition, every project carrying the weight of someone's career ambitions. At first, the job gave Emily a sense of purpose and belonging, much like her group of friends once had. But soon, she would discover that even her workplace was not safe from the undercurrents of her shifting world. The company was buzzing one Monday morning with news of a major project. Word rippled through the halls that a multi-million-dollar contract with a prominent tech startup was up for grabs. Emily's manager, Mr. Dalton, called for a team to lead the client pitch, a rare opportunity that could mean rapid advancement. To Emily's surprise, Jessica's name came up during the meeting. Jessica, leveraging connections from her own tech startup job, had recommended Emily's firm to her company's partners. Because of this, an intercompany collaboration was proposed, with Jessica serving as the liaison. Initially, Emily was thrilled. Working with her best friend on a high-stakes deal felt like an adventure and a sign that their friendship retained some of its sparkle. Amanda was quick to volunteer her marketing expertise, rounding out the team. Lily's nonprofit had once partnered with the same tech startup on social initiatives, so her endorsement strengthened their proposal. The project's early days were filled with brainstorming sessions, coffee-fueled late nights, and a flicker of the old collegiate camaraderie. But beneath the surface, simmering tensions lurked. Emily began to notice uneasy glances exchanged between Jessica and Amanda during meetings. Lily, while outwardly supportive, often missed crucial calls, leaving Emily to pick up the slack. More disturbing were the moments when colleagues would pull Emily aside and ask, "Are you okay? People have been saying you're falling behind."
No.
Perplexed, Emily poured even more effort into her presentations and project reports, triple-checking every detail. Yet, she felt as if her work was constantly being questioned. Email threads revealed alterations to her proposals, comments added with a tone she never would have used. Sometimes, credit for her ideas was quietly attributed to Amanda or Jessica during client calls. Other times, Emily found herself left out of key decisions until the last minute, forced to scramble to catch up. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Private conversations overheard in the hallway seemed to reference her mistakes or suggest a lack of reliability. She dismissed the nagging paranoia at first, reminding herself that stress could distort perception. Still, the mounting evidence was hard to ignore. Changed deadlines without her knowledge, subtle but pointed, constructive feedback from her friends in front of the boss, and rumors about her inability to handle pressure. Meanwhile, Jessica's attitude grew more transactional. Gone was the easy laughter they once shared. In its place were clipped responses, backhanded compliments, and a sense that Jessica's own ambitions were no longer aligned with loyalty or even kindness. Amanda, ever skillful, skirted the line between ally and opponent. She would stand up for Emily in private, but in meetings, she deftly redirected praise toward herself or Jessica. One late afternoon, Emily stumbled across an internal Slack conversation left open on Amanda's laptop in the break room. She saw her own name, alongside disparaging jokes and half-serious laments about carrying the team. The thread included comments from Jessica and even Lily, who, despite her gentle public persona, had voiced concerns about Emily's leadership. The sting of betrayal was sharp and immediate. Emily was left reeling and uncertain whom to trust. Returning home that night, Emily replayed every recent interaction in her mind, searching for clarity. Was she truly losing her edge, or was she being systematically undermined? It was then she realized that the same cracks appearing in her friendships had begun to split open in her professional life. Whether by intention or carelessness, the people she depended on most had begun to erode her foundation, one sly remark and missed opportunity at a time. Emily did not have proof yet, just a collection of doubts, a pattern woven from countless little slights. But somewhere, deep inside, a seed of suspicion began to take root. If her friends could manipulate her world at work so easily, what else might they be scheming behind her back? The prospect was terrifying, but Emily resolved to keep her eyes and her heart open. Something was changing, and she needed to be ready before the next fault line split wide open. The first shock of adulthood in the midst of an early autumn evening, Emily Sinclair found herself standing at the window of her modest apartment, the Manhattan skyline blazing orange in the dying light. The city vibrated just as it always had. Taxis speeding, sirens wailing, laughter and arguments floating up from the sidewalk. But for the first time, Emily felt truly alone in it. The insulated cocoon of friendship and ambition, hardened by years spent with the girls, was beginning to fray, but nothing had prepared her for the rupture that would arrive like a punch to the gut. The first sign was so small, Emily almost missed it. Ryan, usually warm and attentive, seemed distracted on their last few dates. He picked at his food in silence and checked his phone more than usual, using vague work calls as an excuse to cut nights short. Emily dismissed it at first, reminding herself that everyone had stressful weeks. She tried to reassure him, sending thoughtful little texts. "You okay?" she asked one evening. "Miss you," he answered. But the responses grew shorter, and his usual smiley faces disappeared. Then came the night everything split open. Emily remembered every detail. The flickering candle on the table, the way the air conditioning whirred too loudly in the background, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had gone cold. Ryan came over at her request, but wouldn't meet her eyes. There was a cold finality to his expression, as if what he was about to do had already been decided and rehearsed. I think we need to talk." The words hung in the air. He stumbled through a vague speech about needing space, feeling overwhelmed, and not wanting to hurt her. No specific event, no singular reason, just an emptiness where certainty once lived. Emily tried to ask questions, to understand if she'd missed some obvious cue, but Ryan only shook his head. They'd been drifting, he said. He just didn't feel right anymore. By the end, whatever hope she had for clarity was gone. The relationship ended, not with a bang, but a limp echo of goodbye. In the days that followed, Emily operated in a haze. She went to work, finished tasks, answered group chats, but felt detached, going through the motions. Her friends, Jessica, Amanda, Lily, rallied with the expected lines. "You're better off. He didn't deserve you. You can do so much better." Amanda brought over ice cream. Jessica insisted on a girls' night. Lily offered to book them a day at a spa. Outwardly, it looked like support. Inwardly, something felt off. Their comfort seemed just a bit too rehearsed, their pity laced with a quiet satisfaction Emily couldn't name. Time passed, and wounds half healed. Emily tried to move on, throwing herself into work, small creative projects, running along the Hudson to burn away her sadness. Still, the ache lingered. Then, one Tuesday evening, Emily's world tilted on its axis. She was grabbing coffee after a late meeting when she glanced outside the cozy cafe window. There, strolling arm in arm beneath autumn maples, were Ryan and Jessica, her best friend, her confidant, all but inseparable for nearly a decade. The sight stunned Emily so much, she dropped her coffee, splashing it across the table. She stared, unable to look away, watching as Ryan laughed at something Jessica said, his hand finding the small of her back, in a gesture Emily knew well. For several heartbeats, Emily could not breathe. Her first instinct was denial. Maybe she was imagining it, overreacting, seeing what she feared instead of what was real. But as she watched Jessica tenderly tuck a curl of hair behind her ear, as Ryan leaned close, something cold and heavy settled inside Emily. Her heart hammered with betrayal, humiliation, and desperate confusion. The next few days passed in a blur of tears and unanswered questions. Emily barely spoke at work. She ignored her friends' texts, their invitations. Eventually, Amanda stopped by, dropping hints about how life is messy and, sometimes, people surprise us in ways we can't control. Lily sent comforting emojis and booked a brunch, but avoided Emily's direct questions. Emily, refusing to play the victim, dug deeper. She scrolled through old messages and social media posts, replaying every hangout. Every time Jessica had insisted, "Ryan's so cute, you're so lucky." Every subtle dig or dismissive glance. Hindsight revealed what she'd overlooked. How Jessica lingered near Ryan at parties. How Amanda had steered conversations away from Emily's relationship. How Lily always seemed to change the subject. Determined to know the truth, Emily confronted Jessica one evening after work. She met her at a rooftop bar, the city swirling below. Jessica, at first, played dumb. "Are you okay? You look tired," acting as if everything were normal. But when Emily pressed, her voice trembling with restrained hurt, Jessica's mask slipped for a moment. She brushed off the accusations, saying that things just happen, and, with a shrug, implied that Ryan and her connected unexpectedly after the breakup. No apology, only a fleeting look of annoyance. For Jessica, this was an inconvenience, not a betrayal. Reeling, Emily turned to Amanda, hoping for honesty. Amanda danced around the truth, vaguely referencing bad timing and telling Emily to let it go. That guys come and go, but we're sisters, right? Amanda's evasive answers only confirmed Emily's fears. Even Lily, always the gentle mediator, responded with platitudes about trusting fate, glancing at her phone throughout the awkward conversation. The final straw came when Emily learned, through a mutual acquaintance at work, that rumors about her unstable emotional state had made the rounds in her department. Rumors that could only have started within her own friend circle. She realized the girls had been meeting, celebrating, and possibly conspiring without her for weeks.
And how should we address
They
the
agreed to
fluctuations
keep
in the
her
market?
in the
We
dark,
will focus on
to soften
diversifying our
blows,
investments to mitigate
to
risk.
protect her. All euphemisms for calculated exclusion and cover-up. Emily spent nights battling insomnia, tormented not only by heartbreak, but by the sense that her life had become a theater of deception. It wasn't just Ryan who'd broken trust, but the very women who'd once pledged to support her through every storm. She remembered times they'd stayed up all night, her comforting Amanda through a breakup, listening to Jessica stress about job interviews, reminding Lily she was more than her family's expectations. Now, their warmth felt like an illusion. Yet, as the shock wore off, a strange clarity took hold. Emily realized she'd been the one to hold everyone together, always forgiving, always flexible. She'd overlooked little betrayals, talked herself out of suspicions, clung to loyalty for loyalty's sake. Sitting on the fire escape one night, feet dangling above glittering traffic, she resolved to stop letting others dictate her worth. She'd been blindsided, yes, wronged, yes, but she would not be ruined. Emily dried her tears, tucked away every cruel comment and coded message, and quietly began to observe the world around her with sharper eyes. She watched, listened, and started to collect stories, small, powerful moments when the truth peeked out from behind her friends' carefully constructed masks. The first shock of adulthood, she realized, was not just heartbreak or betrayal. It was seeing the world as it truly was, and deciding whether she would let it break her or awaken her. As the city continued its never-ending symphony outside her window, Emily turned inward, preparing for what would come next. A storm of grief had passed. In its aftermath, something new, tougher, more determined, began to grow, sinking into sorrow and awakening. Autumn wore on with a sharp, metallic chill, and the city's brilliance seemed cruelly indifferent to Emily's devastation.
This is a
The
truly
leaves along the
outstanding summary.
parkways blazed
Well done.
with color. But for Emily, even Central Park's famous golds and reds lost their luster. She moved through the motions of her days, commuting, working, preparing dinner, scrolling her phone, feeling as if an invisible pane of glass separated her from the world she once inhabited with ease. At work, Emily's once quiet confidence vanished. The buzz of the office, the low hum of printers and clicking keyboards pressed on her nerves.
Noted.
She caught the way colleagues glanced her way, their voices dropping as she passed. Projects she'd been a part of found their way to other hands, and meetings began to be scheduled without her knowledge. Emily tried to ignore the gossip, to focus on spreadsheets and reports, but her mind was a storm of self-doubt.
I can't believe
She wondered constantly, was it true? Was she falling apart? Had her friends been right about her fragility? Nights were worse. Alone in her apartment, Emily replayed memories like old movies, happy brunches after graduation, inside jokes shared over pizza, whispered promises of always being there for each other. Now, even those good moments felt tainted. Her mind swirled with fragments of conversations. Jessica's laugh merging with Ryan's, Amanda's increasingly sidelong comments, Lily's refusal to meet her eyes. The pain was physical, a tight band around her chest, a pit in her stomach that grew with every unanswered text and ghosted invitation. Sleep became elusive. When it came, it was filled with tangled dreams of betrayal and humiliation. Emily would wake with her heart pounding, sweat dampening her pillow, and reach instinctively for her phone, hoping for a text of apology or explanation that never came. Her world had shrunk. She stopped answering calls from extended relatives and turned down invitations from colleagues. Even her hobbies, baking, sketching, running along the river, felt pointless, as if they belonged to an earlier, naive version of herself who no longer existed. Mostly, Emily wandered through weekend afternoons in bookstores and coffee shops, seeking solace in the quiet anonymity of crowds. But the city pressed in. On more than one occasion, she overheard office whispers about her. Did you hear what happened with her and Jessica? Or caught the flicker of a coworker's pitying glance. Worse still, her manager called her in for a meeting about a recent dip in performance and concerns about her focus. Emily tried to defend herself, to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. She left the meeting feeling hollowed out, her humiliation complete. The lowest point came on a rainy Thursday. A mistake, a misfiled report, was publicly attributed to her, though she was certain she'd followed procedure. Amanda, who had access to the documents, said nothing. Neither did Lily or Jessica, even though they could have clarified things. Emily took the blame in silence, staring at her screen while the rain streaked the windows, both angry and ashamed. For days afterward, Emily operated on autopilot, numbing herself with routines. She suspected her so-called friends were quietly pleased by her downfall. Sometimes, she caught Amanda and Jessica exchanging triumphant glances in office corridors, or heard laughter echo as she passed their closed-door meetings. Emily's world became a fog of paranoia and heartbreak. Yet, grief has strange properties. Eventually, it ebbs, leaving an unfamiliar clarity in its wake. After what felt like weeks beneath the waves, Emily's mind sharpened. She started noticing things. A curious look here, a whispered exchange there, emails sent behind her back. Small inconsistencies tugged at her attention. Why had her last proposal gone missing from the team drive? Why did Jessica always know about changes in scheduling before anyone else? Why did Amanda, the supposed confidant, never speak up on her behalf? One sleepless night, Emily sat curled with a mug of tea, scrolling through old messages. She reread months of group chats, flagging the moments where the tone shifted or a comment landed just a bit too close to jealousy. She skimmed through social media, looking for patterns she'd missed. Pictures where she was placed at the edge. Posts where stories about workplace drama eerily paralleled her own. A creeping suspicion dawned. A sense that this was more than just accidental exclusion, that the real story was being told in careful omissions and conveniently timed silences. In this muddy middle between sorrow and anger, Emily found something else stirring inside her. Resolve. Her entire life, she'd been taught to value kindness, flexibility, the benefit of the doubt. She remembered her mother's advice: be generous in forgiveness, but never blind in trust. Had she, in her quest for harmony, allowed herself to be exploited? Had she confused forgiveness with turning a blind eye to cruelty? The answer hurt, but it was honest. Emily realized the friends she'd kept afloat for years had not been willing to do the same for her. Instead, they'd let her sink, content to watch as she struggled for air. The realization wasn't freeing, at least not at first. It was bitter, and Emily wept for hours as she finally let the truth settle. But acknowledgement brought the first taste of power she'd felt in months. Perhaps, she thought, sorrow was a teacher. She had learned to recognize false smiles and the language of subtle sabotage. She saw how easily love, of friends, of partners could be weaponized. She vowed not to become bitter or vengeful, but she was done being naive. In the days that followed, small acts of self-defense became Emily's way forward. She began backing up her work and logging her hours more carefully. She jotted down curious exchanges, saving screenshots, and forwarding suspicious emails to her personal drive. She didn't yet know what she'd need them for, but she intended to be ready. For the first time, she opened herself to colleagues outside her old circle, forging casual connections, collecting stories and office gossip, gathering perspective that had once seemed irrelevant. There was pain, yes, but in the pain, Emily discovered a spine of steel she never knew she had. She returned to running, pounding out her anger and grief mile after mile along the Hudson. She watched documentaries about famous whistleblowers and read memoirs about overcoming betrayal. She made notes about what to trust, who to trust, when to keep silent, when to speak. Her world, once colored by the absolutes of loyalty and affection, became more nuanced. She didn't become cold or suspicious, but she became careful, alert, prepared. It wasn't just survival. It was a quiet awakening. Instead of letting heartbreak turn her inward, Emily allowed herself to see the world with bracing clarity. She acknowledged her wounds without letting them harden her heart. And, on a crisp morning, as the city shimmered with late autumn light, she paused atop a footbridge and exhaled. No longer the woman shattered by pain, but one remade by it. Emily understood that she couldn't return to her old life or her old illusions. But in this new, uncharted territory, she resolved to walk with eyes wide open, trusting herself most of all. The next storm, she decided, would find her ready. Transformation and quiet. Counterattack. The first true frost of winter glazed the city, lending everything an edge of sharpness and transparency that Emily found oddly reassuring. It was as though the world itself had decided to shed its disguises. And for the first time in months, so had she. Emily's transformation did not happen overnight, nor did it occur with melodramatic vows of revenge or tearful declarations. It was, instead, a process as subtle and steady as the slow lengthening of the nights. In quiet ways, she decided she would no longer be a casualty of circumstance, nor would she let old hurt dictate the rest of her story. Instead, she would reclaim her narrative, piece by piece, skill by skill, day by day. The first step was to strip away the layers of emotional numbness that had built up after so many betrayals. She set clear routines, waking earlier than before to run through the frosty morning air, pushing herself past doubt and fatigue until sweat mingled with the sting of memory. With each stride, she reminded herself that movement, no matter how small, was proof she was alive and capable of change. Her apartment gradually transformed into a haven for self-improvement. The stacks of self-help books and neglected art supplies gave way to fresh notebooks, online lectures, and neatly organized lists of micro goals. She signed up for professional development courses after work, one on data analytics, another on negotiation tactics, a third on public speaking. Even when exhaustion sent her crawling into bed, she watched TED Talks or listened to podcasts about women leaders, innovators, and survivors. If her old friends noticed, they did not mention it. Jessica, Amanda, and Lily had clearly formed their own insular trio, visible through carefully curated Instagram stories and the occasional brag in the office corridor. Emily no longer felt a sting when she saw photos of the three at trendy brunches or industry events. The images seemed distant, static, part of a life that no longer belonged to her. But she had not forgotten their betrayal, and she was not about to leave herself defenseless. Having learned the hard way that even the closest bonds could rot from the inside, Emily started to blend caution with preparation.
Thank you.
She saved every email and Slack message that seemed suspicious, especially those where credit for projects changed hands or where her tone was subtly misrepresented. She purchased a pocket-sized recorder and, whenever a conversation with her ex-friends veered toward manipulation, quietly captured the exchange for her records. It was not about paranoia, she told herself. It was about protecting her future. With her vision clearer and her instincts sharper, Emily began nurturing new connections. It wasn't easy. She'd once told herself that making real friends as an adult in New York was impossible. But it turned out there were many others like her. People who had been burned, disappointed, or simply left behind by the city's churn. She started saying yes to happy hours and networking nights, joining a weekend running club, and volunteering at a local animal shelter. The circle she once guarded so fiercely now expanded, not in dramatic gestures, but in the slow, organic accumulation of trust. One evening, after months of almost monastic focus on self-betterment, Emily found herself seated at a cozy bar in Brooklyn, laughing with a diverse group of new friends. There was Priya from the coding bootcamp with her dry wit, Tomas, a Brazilian graphic designer whose generosity knew no bounds, and May, a financial journalist with a penchant for midnight bookstore explorations. Nobody in the group cared about Emily's past drama. They respected her insight, her growing confidence, and the way she listened to others. At work, her transformation did not go unnoticed. Emily was no longer content to stay silent in meetings. When Amanda or Jessica tried to edge her out or downplay her ideas, she responded with unshakable professionalism, backing up her suggestions with hard data and prepared evidence. She began to document her victories as rigorously as her setbacks. Subtle power plays by her old circle were met with calm, factual correction. Her manager, Mr. Dalton, who had once labeled her distracted, now praised her thoroughness. By winter's midpoint, Emily was tapped for a cross-departmental task force, putting her in contact with several company leaders outside her toxic bubble. Of course, all of this, the personal growth, the careful collection of evidence, the renewal of self-worth, was not enough for Emily. She knew she had to set the record straight, not just for herself, but for the sake of those who might become future targets of manipulation. The final straw arrived one frigid Monday morning, when another rumor about her falling behind inexplicably surfaced just as a project she'd spearheaded was in line for recognition from upper management. That night, Emily sat down at her kitchen table, the city's neon reflections rippling over her mug of chamomile tea. She sorted digital files for hours on her laptop, screenshots of altered documents, flagged emails in which her achievements were handed off to others, even voice memos of Amanda's and Jessica's thinly veiled criticisms. She organized everything into a bulletproof timeline that showed not only her own competence, but the pattern of consistent undermining and sabotage by her former friends. Meanwhile, outside the insular office drama, Emily's world continued to open up. She found herself invited to new spaces, industry panels, creative workshops, friend-hosted bonfires in Prospect
We
Park,
speak of resilience,
where old friendships
transparency,
had felt
and the courage
transactional
to drive
or
change.
conditional. These relationships were founded on
True
honesty
courage is
and
not the
mutual
absence of fear,
uplift.
but the
She
triumph over
realized
it.
that loyalty, when unearned or unreciprocated, could become just another form of bondage. Buoyed by these revelations and by a community that valued her for her real self, Emily felt the final traces of her old passivity fall away. She got her hair cut short, sleek and professional now, and built a modest but stylish new wardrobe. She invested in herself in tiny, tangible ways. A day trip upstate, a fitness tracker for her morning runs, an
Persistence
upgraded
does pay
laptop
off.
for her
Let me
passion
know if you need
projects,
data wrangle.
while her ex-friends seemed intent on climbing ladders by stepping on anyone in their way. Emily was building her own foundation, strong and unshakable. As winter's end drew near, the outlines of Emily's counterattack became clear. She would not stoop to cheap drama or public mudslinging. Instead, she would let the truth do what accusation never could: cut through smoke and mirrors with undeniable evidence. She was prepared, patient, and, for the first time, utterly unapologetic. In the small hours before dawn, as the city's skyline began to soften a shade toward spring, Emily stood by her window, breathing in the frigid air that once chilled her to the bone. She was no longer running from fear. She was running toward something: her own liberation, her own reckoning, her future shining brighter than the frost-glazed lights below. The climactic event, winter clung to the city with a stubborn chill. But inside the sprawling glass atrium of the downtown convention center, the air buzzed with anticipation. Tonight was more than a corporate event. It was a convergence of the city's brightest minds, the annual Winter Gala, where industry leaders, social innovators, and up-and-coming talents mingled beneath shimmering chandeliers and artful lights. For Emily, the evening represented something much larger, a crossroads of the past and the future. Weeks of preparation had led to this. Emily's firm had earned a spotlight slot to present their latest project, a partnership proposal that could secure international clients and reputational distinction. Executives, partners from rival companies, and even journalists would be there. More personally, the gala would draw her old friends, now inextricably intertwined with Emily's professional life and lingering pain. As guests filtered in, Emily's nerves simmered beneath a sheath of icy composure. She had chosen her outfit with care: navy dress, understated jewelry, hair pinned with quiet authority. Her new circle of friends, Priya, Thomas, May, joined her, their encouragement steady and grounded. They did not know every detail of what tonight would mean, but they sensed the storm beneath her calm and promised to stay close. The old trio arrived together, radiating confidence. Jessica held court near the hors d'oeuvres, Amanda charmed a ring of young associates, and Lily's laughter rose above the crowd. Gone was any trace of the gentle, vulnerable friend Emily once cherished. Instead, what stood before her now were three polished professionals, masks impeccably fastened. Emily's opportunity came during the main presentations. Her team's project had been slotted as the highlight of the night, following weeks of rumors about technical brilliance and creative drive. Amanda's name appeared alongside Emily's as co-lead. Jessica, officially representing her own firm, was due to speak on the panel, while Lily worked in the wings, liaising with event organizers. A web of old loyalties now pulled impossibly taut. As the MC called Emily's team onto the stage, lights brightened, and the crowd's attention coalesced into a single, humming force. Emily breathed deep and stepped forward, welcoming the challenge. Her hands were steady, her slide deck precise. She outlined the project's goals, its social impact, its groundbreaking technology. The crowd listened with respect. Amanda moved smoothly through her speech, sprinkling anecdotes and dropping strategic praise. Jessica, from her panelist's chair, offered a few calculated compliments, but spent more time positioning her own company as a vital partner. Emily had expected as much. What she hadn't expected was Amanda's sudden pivot, veering off script and claiming credit for key milestones that belonged to Emily alone. Amanda detailed her contributions, her voice laced with false modesty, and referenced whole swaths of work Emily had slaved over as if they were hers. For a fleeting second, Emily's confidence flickered. She felt the old wounds, the sting of being overshadowed, erased. But this time, she was ready as Amanda spoke. Emily calmly opened her presentation notes, which included a silent trigger for the evidence she'd gathered. The moment Amanda rapped, a hush settled over the room. Emily addressed the audience. Before we move to questions, I'd like to clarify the project's origins and recognize everyone's true contributions. There was a faint, uncomfortable shifting. Amanda and Jessica flashed quick, warning glances. Click. On the screen behind them, Emily queued up a carefully composed sequence. Time-stamped emails, Slack exchanges, and proposal drafts showing the progression of her work. Each item was clear and irrefutable. Her name, her edits, her strategy, all meticulously documented. As faces in the crowd leaned in, Emily narrated quietly, letting the evidence speak for itself. Then, a recovered video segment appeared, capturing a candid Friday brainstorming session. In it, Emily could be heard walking the team through the exact proposal Amanda had just claimed as her origin. Jessica's voice in the video, discussing letting Amanda present, sent a ripple of surprise through the watchers. A few awkward laughs broke out. Amanda's face flushed deep red. Lily, shifting from side to side near the wings, looked anywhere but the screen. Emily was measured and unsparing. "Progress depends on honest recognition," she said. "Collaboration only works when everyone operates in good faith. I'm grateful for my team and thrilled to have a chance to move this mission forward with full transparency." As she finished, there was little left for Amanda to refute, and nothing but silence from Jessica and Lily. The MC, startled but composed, thanked Emily and hastily moved to Q&A. Almost immediately, colleagues and industry guests pressed for details. "Can you explain how you ensured idea integrity across teams? How do you handle internal competition?" Emily fielded each question with calm specificity, methodically reinforcing the truth not just of her work, but of her character. When the guests began mingling again, the impact was unmistakable. A few of Amanda's and Jessica's supporters drifted away. Rumors started, murmured in corners. Was it true they'd stolen credit? How much else had they misrepresented? A department head from Emily's company congratulated her on her professionalism and suggested talking more during the next week's executive review. Jessica, Amanda, and Lily regrouped at the rear of the hall, their faces brittle with embarrassment and shock. Amanda tried to explain to a senior manager, but the explanation fell flat against the clear evidence on the screen. Lily offered awkward apologies to event staff, desperate to look busy. Jessica instructed an intern to gather her things, avoiding Emily's gaze altogether. Meanwhile, Emily's new friends wrapped her in understated support. May patted her on the back, Priya winked, and Tomas offered another round of champagne. Strangers approached, offering congratulations, asking genuine questions about the project, and inviting Emily to future panels and mentorship events. For the first time in recent memory, Emily sensed not just vindication, but real belonging, earned honestly and publicly. As the night wore on and the party faded into laughter and music, Emily found herself outside beneath the winter sky. She pressed her bare hand against the cool stone of the building, feeling the pulse of the city. This time, the shiver she felt was not from fear or loneliness, but from the sharp relief of a burden finally set down. Her counterattack had not been loud or vengeful. It had been patient, precise, quiet, a surgical slicing away of lies, exposing the truth to merciless sunlight. She had not stooped to slander, nor begged for sympathy. Instead, she trusted in her preparation, her evidence, and her own resilient core. Behind her, the old circle was crumbling, bonds founded on jealousy and artifice, dissolving in the glare of consequences. Ahead, for the first time, lay the prospect of a future unshadowed by secrets and manipulation. Emily stepped forward, inhaled the night air, and felt something powerful blossom inside her. Not victory, but freedom, consequences, and growth. When the chill of winter finally began to loosen its grip, Manhattan shimmered with a newborn clarity, as if the city itself had pressed through a crucible and emerged irrevocably changed. So, too, had Emily. She had entered the season battered and bewildered. Now, in its waning days, she walked through a world whose sharp edges could no longer wound her the way they once did. The fallout from the gala's revelations was both immediate and profound, and with it came a reckoning that neither she nor her old friends could evade. The aftermath at work was swift. Rumors had already circulated through the weeks leading up to the event, but the public nature of Amanda and Jessica's exposure ensured that there was no room left for denials or whispered justifications. The day after the gala, Emily's inbox filled with messages, some congratulatory, others apologetic, and more than a few awkwardly curious. Within her department, lines were redrawn almost overnight. Amanda's reputation, once buoyed by charisma, unraveled. Colleagues who'd once flocked to her for advice and inclusion now kept their distance, unwilling to risk association with someone so brazenly exposed. In meetings, Amanda's interjections were met with silence or polite, chilly nods. The management, ever sensitive to company image and productivity, convened a quiet review of her conduct. Ultimately, Amanda was reassigned to a less desirable project and stripped of her leadership title. Privileges vanished, the morning coffee runs, the first picks on new clients, the invitations to exclusive brainstorming sessions. She became a shadow of the social force she'd once been. Her laughter hushed, her bravado spent. Jessica's fall was equally unforgiving. In her role as the tech firm's liaison, she'd cultivated an aura of visionary poise. But news travels fast in corporate New York. Partner companies questioned her ethics. Her boss, who valued discretion and integrity above all, summoned her to a private meeting that lasted less than 15 minutes. She emerged ashen-faced and departed the office early, her position at the firm suddenly precarious. In the days that followed, offers for panel seats and networking opportunities evaporated. Jessica, whose confidence had once filled every room, now moved through the halls with her eyes fixed on the ground. And what of Lily? Always something of an enigma. Lily had kept silent through both triumph and disaster, but there was no escaping the consequences of her complicity. Board members at her nonprofit, alarmed by association, asked pointed questions about character and leadership. She was not fired, but it became clear that her sterling reputation was stained. Brunch invitations dried up, as did the donations from a handful of former supporters. Lily, for the first time in her charmed life, was left to face uncertainty alone. She reached out to Emily once with a tentative text, "I hope you're okay," but found only polite refusal in the reply. The social landscape outside work changed just as abruptly. The once inseparable group was suddenly radioactive. Other friends, sensing the shift, pulled away from Amanda, Jessica, and Lily, fearful of becoming entangled in a web of distrust. Those who had always viewed Emily as the quiet one now saw her in a new light, resilient, independent, self-possessed. Through all this, Emily found herself caught between a sense of vindication and a weighty compassion, for she knew what it was to be left out, to be misrepresented, to lose everything familiar. But she was also acutely aware that she could not become caretaker for the very people who had orchestrated her undoing. Instead, Emily focused on her own path. The weeks after the gala felt at first both liberating and disorienting. Accolades came from unexpected places, mentorship requests from junior analysts, thoughtful notes from other departments, a formal thank you letter from the VP of Operations. With her restored reputation came a steady confidence, one built not on blind optimism, but on hard-won clarity and self-advocacy. Her work blossomed, freed from the constant need to second-guess motives and defend her achievements. Emily contributed with new energy. She led projects with transparency, crediting colleagues where due and maintaining meticulous documentation as a safeguard for herself and others. She designed and launched a workshop series on collaboration ethics, inviting open dialogue about internal competition, recognition, and trust. The sessions were so well received that other branches of the company soon requested her workshops. Her social life, too, shifted. Priya, Tomas, and May, her friends from various corners of the city, became anchors in Emily's new world. Their friendships, forged in the open and free of hidden motives, taught her what it meant to nurture relationships based on mutual uplift. Dinners in cozy walk-up apartments were filled with laughter and gentle teasing, not secrets or shifting alliances. On weekends, she hiked upstate, rediscovering the thrill of open spaces and the grounding power of solitude. Still, the scars remained. There were days when Emily strolled past a familiar coffee shop or glimpsed an old group photo and felt the ache of what had been lost. She allowed herself these moments, the quiet sadness, the memories of loyalty and comfort, but she did not let them rule her. Gradually, growth took on a shape beyond mere recovery. Emily learned to set boundaries firmly, but kindly. She taught herself to say no to people, to tasks, to expectations that did not serve her. She found herself giving advice to others who faced betrayal, urging them to trust their instincts and document their worth, to hold others accountable without losing their own integrity. Outwardly, Emily's life appeared more vibrant than ever. She joined a public speaking club to hone her confidence, presented at regional industry conferences, and volunteered as a mentor for women launching their own careers. She revamped her apartment, painting sunlit colors onto the walls, adding plants and artwork, a physical testament to her inner renewal. The fallout from her friends' choices lingered, as all consequential acts do, but it no longer colored Emily's days in bitterness or shadow. Instead, it served as a touchstone, a reminder of her resilience, her hard-earned wisdom, and the reality that outgrowing old bonds is painful but necessary. In the end, Emily understood that adulthood's first shocks, betrayal, loss, the collapse of illusions, were not tragedies to endure, but essential rites of passage, to stride out of the ashes of betrayal and choose, deliberately, to live fully and kindly. This was the ultimate revenge and the truest form of growth. As spring warmed the city, Emily ran along riversides and through crowded sidewalks, her heart lighter than it had felt in years. She knew there would be other storms, other complicated endings, and brand new beginnings. But she was not afraid. She had found her voice, her place, and her people, and most of all, her own unwavering capacity for both compassion and courage.